Welcome to this video about adulting. Adulting is not a real word in English, but we use it to refer to being or becoming an adult. And in this video, I'm going to give you some tips and recommendations about being an adult. I recently had an activity with my students where they asked me questions about what it meant to be an adult, and interestingly, many of them were really concerned about taxes. And well, in a way, yeah, that's a very important topic. There were also other concerns that I will address in a moment, but let's start with taxes. First of all, in Mexico, the office in charge of collecting taxes is called the SAT, or the Servicio de Administración Tributaria. It's the IRS of Mexico. Well, in general, as a working person, you need to worry about two taxes: the value-added tax, that we know as IVA, or the income tax that we know as the ISR. And well, depending on the job you get shortly before you finish college or right after you finish college, well, you can be paid in different ways. One way is cash, which is very, very informal, but probably about half of the population in this country get paid in cash. It's not the best way to get a job because it is like you don't exist. So I recommend you to get a job like that, or maybe just even for a moment, 1 year or two maybe, in order to get experience, in order to learn. Then you have more formal jobs which give you temporary contracts, which is similar to freelancing. It's not the same exactly, but I mean, freelance is also temporary. You're not formally hired by a company. You do projects and you get paid based on the number of projects that you participate in. Then you can get a full-time job or steady job, or what in some schools they call tenure. So that's probably the dream, because it's basically being fully hired, and then you have the job, and then, well, after a couple of decades you can retire from it if you want, but if not, at least you know that unless you make a big mistake, you're not gonna get fired. That's the dream normally if you want to get a good job. Unfortunately, not as common as it should be, and it's even getting less and less common. It's getting more and more common to get temporary contracts, one after the next, one after the next. That's what many companies and institutions are doing. Of course, you can also have your own business. And well, if you have your own business, then whether you are using mostly cash or not, you need to do your taxes for sure. So when do you have to declare? If you have an informal job and you only get paid in cash because you're still a student or you just finished college, normally you don't declare that because it's regularly a low salary. You're just learning, you don't really make tons of money yet, so okay. You're just trying to make a name for yourself. You are trying to get the actual contract. This cash can also work as a trial period, but it can also be like that's the way they do it in the company. So then after getting some experience, then I suggest you go and find another job somewhere else where you are properly hired. But it's more like an internship sometimes, it feels. However, if you start making more money, even if it's cash, and you're doing really well, then you start doing your tax declarations. Otherwise, you're breaking the law. If you get a temporary job, as I explained before, well, sometimes even if it's temporary, the company that hired you does your taxes, so you don't have to worry. However, it's not very common. Normally, if you get a temporary job, you're also kind of freelancing, which means that you need to declare at least once a year and sometimes even once a month. Yeah, because then you become like your own business person. So you start your own company in a way, even if that company has one employee, which is yourself. Then you need to get all the receipts, and then you need to do your taxes once a month, and then once a year. So you need to do you need to do those declarations 13 times a year. The company that hires you will make it very clear for you whether you have to do your taxes every month or not, depending on the type of contract you get. So that's something that you are explained up front. It's not like you're getting paid and later you find out, oh my God, I need to do my taxes. That's something that is discussed since the beginning. And normally there is not much possibility to negotiate. The company says, this is how we hire, this is the salary, take it or leave it. Normally there's no room to negotiate. So if you don't like this idea of doing your taxes every month, then probably just don't get the job. However, you might miss an opportunity, so give it a shot and be super organized with all your expenses. I'll give you more info in a moment, right? The best option, as I said, is when they fully hire you and the company does your taxes. Then you don't need to do this, you don't need to worry about it. Maybe you know adults that don't do this. It's because maybe they're lucky enough to be formally hired, so they don't really need to do their taxes. They are just very happy working full-time, getting their salary clean, so to speak, not because there's anything illegal about it, but you get your money after taxes, which means all the taxes are already taken and kept by the company, and then the company presents that to the government, so the money you get is fully yours. That's the best option, and normally it's very difficult to get a job like that. That's why in the beginning you should probably accept one of the other temporary jobs or projects so that you can make a name for yourself, get experience, and then get a full-time job. Now, that's not it about taxes, because regardless of how you're hired, if you have two sources of income, then you need to declare, you need to do your taxes. So even if your two sources of income are like full-time, full contracts where the companies do your taxes, since you're getting two sources of income, even if both sources of income are in charge of your taxes, you have to do your taxes. And normally your employer will ask you at some point, or will know, or you'll have to notify, and then the company stop doing your taxes, and you have to do your taxes once a year if you have two sources of income. Even if you get very little money on each one, it doesn't matter. Two sources of income, you need to do your taxes once a year. Maybe you have a single job, just one job, but in the summer you get a second job. So that means that you need to do your taxes for getting that second job. It's worth it. I don't want you to think like, oh crap, if I get this second job and now I have to do my taxes and I don't want to do my taxes, so I'm not gonna get the job. No, that's not the best way to address this issue. It's take the job, keep the receipts, get an accountant, and do your taxes. Don't miss interesting opportunities because of that. That's another situation. In Mexico right now, 2021, if you're making 400,000 pesos a year, you need to do your taxes. Even if it's a full-time job where a company does everything for you, but the salary is above 400,000 pesos a year, then you need to do your taxes. So as you can see, the chances for you to actually be in this issue of doing your taxes, the chances are high, very, very high. So it's better to learn how to do this, and don't say no to a job opportunity because of this. Now, normally when you finally get this job and you start getting paid, then what do you declare? How do you do this? And to be honest, I'm not really gonna tell you how. I'm just gonna give you just the very basics. You need an accountant. At the end of the day, you need an accountant. But you need to be aware of some things. For example, it's all about your income and your expenses. So every time you get paid, if you have a job or two jobs, as I explained before, make sure you have all the receipts. And then the receipts will explain what you're getting. Sometimes you get paid and the taxes are already there included and they give you everything. So you're careful, because that means that if they are giving you all the money, even with the taxes, that means that part of that money is not really yours. Part of that money is for the government's taxes. So you have to give it back to the government. Normally that's what it means to pay your taxes. It's basically, hey, my company gave me this money, gave me the salary and the taxes with it. So government, here's your money. Be careful not to spend that money, which is the problem, right? Many people hate this thing because they get the money and they spend it, but you have to know, you have to read carefully, and you will know before you get the job. You will know like if the money you get is really fully yours or not. You know that beforehand. And the other thing that you need to declare is your expenses, because you are telling the government, hey, this is the money that I'm making, but these are my expenses as well. Now, obviously, when I say expenses, I'm not talking about your personal expenses, like, oh, I bought a new video game console. No, that's not the type of expense the government cares about. You need to tell the government about your expenses, the ones that are related to your job, to your professional activity. Those are the expenses that you need to show. Normally, with the income, you have the income tax, or in Mexico, the ISR. And with your expenses, you're paying a value-added tax, or IVA in Mexico, IVA. In order to show the government that you have received, or that your employer has taken income tax out of your payment, you need to show the receipts, right? And in order to tell the government, hey, I bought this equipment that is professional equipment that I need to do my job, then you need to show the invoices. So invoices is important because this is how you tell the government, hey, I've been spending money on equipment that is directly related to my occupation. So I am actually not just getting money and profiting from that money. I'm part of this money, I'm investing it. So careful, not all the money that I'm getting is really profit, because I'm also investing, otherwise I cannot continue doing my activity. So keep those invoices. The most common expenses that you will tell the government is gasoline. Electronics, normally electronics can be justified, like a new laptop, a new computer, like, hey, I need an invoice. Every time you get a new electronic device, get an invoice, give to your accountant, because normally that would very possibly be allowed as an expense. Electronics, everyone uses electronics. Health, if you have health bills, hospital bills, that's part of your expenses for sure. It's not necessarily work related, but the issue with health is that it's not profit. When you spend money on health, it's because you had an emergency, you had a procedure, you had a health problem, so you're using your money to cover this basic need. So it's a way to tell the government, hey, part of the money that I got, I used it for health purposes. So it's so my profit margin was not as wide, or was smaller, or was not as high as my income because of these expenses. And also if you have a mortgage, because when you're paying for a home that you are buying and that you're paying for every month, there's an interest rate, and this interest rate has a tax added to it. So in a way, every time you're paying for your mortgage, you're not just paying for the home, but you're also like paying the government for that product that you bought. So that's another thing that you can tell the government, hey, I have a mortgage. Let's suppose that during a month you got this income for different projects, or different employers, or maybe one employer and a couple of extra projects, or you're freelancing, whatever, you're getting this income, 40,000 in a month. And then you spend a couple thousand pesos, as I said, on gasoline, electronics, maybe you go to the doctor, etc. So you're telling the government, hey, this is what I made, but this is what I spent. So what's the mistake? The mistake is to think that you have a profit of 28,000 pesos, right? So you need to pay money out of those 28,000. Not necessarily. That's the trick, because what you get can be added with the income tax or not. As I said, maybe your employer is giving you the payment with the tax there for you to then pay to the government. But maybe the employer is keeping that tax and it's just giving you the actual salary. So it's all there in the receipt. Maybe you are freelancing, so when you're freelancing, you kind of become a product. So as a product, when people pay for your services, they are also paying the value-added tax. So the money that you're getting is probably loaded or with a tax. So as you can see, this money that you're getting may or may not have some tax included there that you're getting, or that maybe the employer is keeping. Once you are so busy with your project, with your life, etc., many times it's just better to get an accountant and you know the basics of accounting, so that you know that more or less what you think you're gonna be paying is more or less matches what you're really gonna be paying, or but the accountant is the one that is gonna confirm at the end. Also, don't forget that your expenses, when you're buying things, there is a value-added tax to those things. So as you can see, basically what you're doing in one of these tax returns, you're telling the government, hey, I'm paying you lots of taxes, no? With my job, with my professional activities, and I'm getting an income. There's a tax there that my employer is keeping and it's giving you, or that my employer gave me, and here I'm giving it to you. This is yours. Also, I had these expenses, work expenses, and every time I'm buying and I'm paying for these things, there's a tax added to it. So I'm also paying taxes there. So in a way, that's why it's not, you don't really have like a profit of 28,000. You need to wait till you do all the math to know how much is really yours and how much you give to the government. I mean, a big mistake people make is just to say, you know what, 20,000, let's go to the beach. No, it's like, oh, wait. Well, if we're talking about being responsible adults, you have to do the math first, and you need to take care of your taxes before you make any other decision regarding your money. Normally, you get your taxes in January, and you do the math, and then you pay in February. And then you work in February, you do the math, and then you pay in March. So yes, of course, you can just get those 20,000 and spend them. Just be careful, because the next month, when you do the math and your accountant says this is what you need to pay, well, you need to have that money there, and you will have a couple of days to pay for that. However, well, if you are organized, as I said, you're paying taxes everywhere, right? Income tax, value-added tax. When you're getting paid, there's an income tax. When you're buying stuff, there's a value-added tax. So there are taxes everywhere. So if you have a very organized system, you might as well not pay anything. And not just that, you might even get a refund, which is awesome, because with all the taxes you're paying here and there, sometimes, especially with the declaration that you do once a year, sometimes you get some money back. Because after 1 year of doing this math and keeping all the receipts and all the invoices, etc., it turns out that you've been paying thousands of pesos to the government, and they give you a refund. And so that becomes like a bonus, because it's the government saying, hey, you're right, you paid me lots of taxes with the value-added tax and lots of taxes with the ISR. You're right, this money is yours. You know, this amount of money you overpaid, so it's yours, and that's it. It's yours. You can just use it however you want. So that's in a way an advantage. If you stay just getting cash because you don't want to do the declarations, first of all, that's not necessarily legal, because eventually, even if it's cash, well, you're not reporting an income. You see, so if you want to just keep your salary under the table, you're missing an opportunity to actually get a refund, but also to grow professionally, because by having this all organized, you're keeping a better track of your expenses. And as I said, part of your expenses have to do with investing in your own business. Even if you are the only employee of that own business, every time you buy a new laptop, every time you buy equipment and you get the invoices, in a way you're investing in yourself. So even if you never get a refund, even if you have to pay taxes every month or every year, well, it's basically because you're doing well. Think about it. At the end of the day, taxes is just a percentage. It's a proportion of what you get. You're never gonna be asked to pay thousands of pesos in taxes, much higher than what you actually got. No, because it's all a proportion, right? So the more you get, the more tax you're gonna pay. However, are you gonna stop working and doing projects just because you don't wanna pay taxes? That would be a mistake, I think. And well, now that we're talking about money, I decided to start with the difficult